bringing you the latest news from Monterey Athletics. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the High School Fan Zone on this, the third Monday of May and the last Monday of the High School Fan Zone for this school year. We'll be back late August, early September, but we're going to close it out in the Plainsmen Fan Zone with Brian Cronk, the Monterey softball coach, whose team got back to the playoffs. This dude's never missed the playoffs, correct?
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure I get that right. It didn't last as long as it has. In fact, my wife was asking me the other day. She said, "Aren't you used to covering Monterey?" And I said, "Yeah." And I bet Brian will tell you the same thing. He's used to seeing me a few weeks later than.
Well, we enjoy having you around. Well, typically late in the season.
I've enjoyed being there. This was a little bit different season for you. I think fair to call it maybe a transitional season now that it's in the rearview mirror a little bit.
A season of learning.
There we go. That sounds a lot more. I just Matt Leesman and a couple of Lubbock High kids were on here, and I told him whenever Lubbock High kids get on here, I let them talk because they're a lot smarter than me. So I'll give you the same. Well, you sound a lot smarter than me. So, but they did get to the playoffs. It was that I still want to have you explain the Lubbock High and Caprock thing because I'm still a little hazy about that. You all three tied.
Yes, sir.
You played in Plainview that night. You beat Lubbock High, who had to sit there and wait to see who they might play, but then Caprock beat you, so everybody got on buses and went home.
Pretty much. So it was a scenario where you win and you're in. And, you know, how it turned out, how it was set up, I don't know if it was the right way to end up in that position or not. You know, I'm thankful that we had the opportunity to play and put ourselves in. You know, if you look back to a year ago when we had a three-way tie for first, they took a head-to-head.
Yes.
And as we did that, Wiley wound up as a 1 because they were 3-1 against us, and Cooper was 2-2, and we were 1-3 because we got swept by Wiley. And so part of me thought that was how it was going to break down with the three-way tie. Part of me thought that's how it should have broken down with the three-way tie. You know, unfortunate deal for Lubbock High. They swept Caprock, and they didn't get a chance to beat them and play in.
Which I didn't know until I talked to Daniela that night, and she.
Yeah. So you know, for them, they were chomping at the bit to you know, obviously play Caprock and I don't know if she would have had a chance to play Caprock and then, you know, Winter played us if she would have felt more comfortable with it. And I don't want to speak for her or put words in her mouth, but I know that she was not happy about the way that it kind of shook out, and I can't blame her for that. You know, you want your kids to have an opportunity, and heck, they were 2-0 against Caprock, and you know, but I mean, for me, looking back at that, you know, to do it over again, taking visitors and getting a chance to jump out on top, probably would have redone that, knowing what I know now. But you know, but it was a strange deal, and you know, again, we were fortunate to be there.
You took care of business. That's the important thing for you.
Yes, yeah. We, you know, and honest to God, you know, looking at the score, looking how things started, you look at it and go, well, you guys didn't go out to win, or, you know, I'm not going to do that. When I got in softball 19 years ago, it was still a big time of playing pool games and timed games. And we'd come across people that, you know, if you're drop dead at a certain point, well, 3 minutes on the clock, all of a sudden you get a conversation, you know,
right.
a coach's conference, and I'm thinking, no, you don't do that. I mean, if you beat me square up, fine, but and I swore to myself that we would go and try and win every game, you know, that we possibly can, and so, but you know, it is what it was. But you know, I was proud of our kids for the way we played that night, and you know, we competed, and we found out a little bit about ourselves for sure.
We're going to focus on Monterey softball, but you talked about Lubbock High. Fair to say that's the best Lubbock High team in 4 or 5 years.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they had some pieces, and you tip your cap to what they did, and they competed their tails off, and you look at some scores and you say, well, no, they didn't, but they competed well, and we watched various games, and even against us, yes, they battled at the plate, they did things, and Haley threw well in the circle and kept them in things, and they had a solid year, and graduation will affect them some, but in softball the biggest thing is if you got someone in the circle, you give yourself a shot day in, day out, and they as of now they have that. And so
graduation got you guys a little bit, obviously. You lost some girls who kept me busy for 4 years.
Yeah, and yes, graduation hurts, and it did get us, and I don't know. Again, looking back at it, I don't know what we could have done differently to put ourselves in a different situation in the circle this year. But looking specifically at the circle, proud of the kids, things that they did. Very different components between all three of them, and we got things out of AJ. Gave Cooper a run at their place, and kept them at bay at our place even for a little while, and. Meal was hot early and threw well and kept us in games. Our defense killed us time and time again. And Selena grew as the year went, and then, kind of solidified herself in that role. And, I've had people ask, well, why did it take you so long to figure out she was your number one? I was like, because she was still learning, and she's still learning.
One thing you can't do as a coach is you can't speed the clock up. You can't slow it down, but you can't speed it up. They've got to learn and grow on their own.
Right. And, and so, we ran into that. But, I think all three of them did things to keep us in games. I think our defense hurt us, and that's not something our kids haven't heard. But you get a ground ball here, you got to make the play. You get a pop fly there, you got to make the play. You've got to take advantage of them. You can't give away free outs. And, if we look back at the first Caprock game, we, had some unearned runs, and then you take the Lubbock High game, the first Lubbock High game, we had errors that, gave up runs. And so, it's catch-22 because, they gave up hits, but, they also rolled us into outs, and we didn't take care of it. So, but graduation, leads you down paths that you have to figure out which way you need to go.
Well, and you said this I can't remember if you said it to me on the show, but you also ran into some teams that you had beaten that sure wanted to get back at you a little bit. And we'll talk about that because one of them got you in the playoffs. This is Randy Rosetta on 100.7 The Score. We'll be back in the Plainsmen Fan Zone after this break.
Diving headfirst into Monterey athletics. You're listening to the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back to the Plainsmen Fan Zone. A couple of Monterey news items. I mentioned last week, and we're going to mention it just real quickly. Monterey will have a new football coach in the fall. Judd Thrash is not going to be there. Big shoes to fill. The Plainsmen had made a lot of progress especially last year. Tied for the district championship, went 2 rounds deep. There will be a new man in charge at some point, and there's a new lady in charge of the Monterey girls basketball program. Chelsea Hunter, graduate, correct? Monterey graduate of Monterey. 2017, I think, if I looked right. Talk about some big shoes to fill. She's taken over for Jill Snyder, who was there for 27 years, walked away with the state championship.
I don't know if there's a better way to walk out than that, but definitely a great year for the basketball team and a great career for Coach Snyder. And
I texted her last Monday because a couple of her girls were on, Ari Johnson and Ambrosia Cole, and I texted her to let her know they were coming on, and I said, how's retirement? And I can't remember what she said, but she's enjoying it.
I think that Jill has worked extremely hard. She's got her hand in many jars, I guess. I don't know how many basketball affiliations she's involved with. A ton of them. She winds up all over the place, and but she's great in the classroom.
That's what I'm not sure people understand that. That's a LISD tradition. That if you're a good coach, that comes with being and I know you're going to downplay yourself, but I've had kids tell me that you're a really good teacher.
Well, they've been lying to you. When we talk about great classroom teachers and talk about, I just know, and I say this with all due respect, Coach Schneider scares the bejesus out of me. But I have the utmost respect for her, but she gets kids not out of fear, but she motivates them in the classroom. Those kids will show up down there for tutoring, for extra work, and she doesn't bat an eye. And I mean, she's stern with them, but she's caring. And losing her in the classroom is going to be one thing. Losing her as a coordinator, as a head basketball coach is something else. But
people may remember you were on her staff for a few years.
I was probably against a lot of people's better judgment, but the couple of years that I was on her staff, and it was the first year was a rough one, and talent wise it was questionable, and we got ran out of the gym more times than we were in games, I imagine. But she coached and she communicated and she encouraged, and for me, that was great to see. I've had the privilege over the years to work with and alongside some terrific coaches that have had stellar careers, and for me that was just another. But yeah, I'm there to coach basketball, but I was there to learn coaching and just how she went about her business, and it was awesome. And so, you steal things as a coach, and that's one of the things I tried to take out of that year was, I would have loved X's and O's and all of that, but it was so much more. It was about how to treat kids and interact with kids and motivate kids and get them to show up tomorrow. I mean, you just lost by 50, and hey, let's be back in the gym tomorrow and give me everything you have.
I'm going to bet that it wasn't total coincidence too that you took what you learned. You're a great coach in your own right. You took that when you got to the spring, because that was your 4-year run right in the middle of that, correct?
It was, and I don't know. There's a running joke, and so Riley's back from college, and she's been around the field last couple of weeks, and we were in the office the other day and kind of organizing some stuff, and we have I guess it's a hat, but the chicken hat.
Yes.
And the night that we wound up going to getting that chicken hat, I think we got no hit. I know we got shut out. We looked like
the other end of the chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably. It was bad, and 5 years before that, 10 years before that, I would have lost my mind. We probably would have stayed in the hotel and got some Allsup's takeout or something. But we went out, had a good dinner, and had a good time, and came back the next day and played good softball. And so I think there are some things that the game's over, we need to learn from it, and so that year and being around basketball probably was more beneficial for me than what I could have done, for sure.
We were chatting a little bit about Lubbock coaching legend J.J. Johnson, and when I talked to him the night of your deal in Plainview, you were talking about, and I asked him when the chanting became a thing, the softball chanting, how he adjusted, and he said, "Oh God, it took me a while." You can just imagine a young J.J. Johnson dealing with that. So if you're listening, JJ, you're welcome. We'll talk more about Monterey sports when we come back after the break in the Plainsmen Fan Zone on high school or on 100.7 The Score.
Your inside look into Monterey sports. This is the Plainsmen Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back into the final segment of the Plainsmen Fan Zone. I promise we're going to focus on Monterey softball here now, because I want you to tell me what happened against Abilene Wiley. I mentioned that part of this growth, would you call it a growing season? Season of growth?
Season of learning.
Season of learning is that you had to face some teams that you knocked out of the playoffs that kind of came back to get their share. I'm talking about Amarillo High, Lubbock Cooper, and Abilene Wiley, and they all took a little chunk of hide.
They did, and you can throw Caprock into that mix.
There we go. So Abilene Wiley, you get them in the playoffs. First of all, Abilene Wiley's a really good program. They've been good for years.
She continues to just churn out kids that compete. They compete at the plate. They compete on defense on the bases. I mean, everything they do, they're well coached. They're they just play hard. She's done a great job with them, but we get them in big spring, and we have we struggled in the first couple innings with the pitching, and they found some success, and then the air. I don't even know what you'd call it at that point, but airs just kind of reared their head, and one led to another, and all of a sudden you're down 4-0, and in a position we'd found ourselves in more than once, but we'd got ourselves in a position where we were scratching, and offhand I can't remember exactly what the score was as it was happening, but I guess we're down 6-3, maybe 6-4. Bases loaded, one out. I guess we scored the fourth run on that, and we hit a chopper over the pitcher's head, and tough ball for the shortstop to handle, and she mishandles it. Well, we teach our kids, if defender's in the way, or in this case third baseman's in the way, well, you just keep moving. Mm-hmm. And so she's in the way, we run into her, and we keep moving. I had the stop sign up, and afterwards I'm like, what happened? She goes, Coach, I ran into the third baseman. You've told that? I'm like, yes, I have told you that. And so we have bases loaded, and we should have one out and down 2 runs, and Emily Morales is coming up, and she'd been swinging a hot bat and a great spot to be in, and we wind up in a rundown. Thought we should have had obstruction going back into the base, didn't get that, but wound up with a runner at third coming in as commotion's happening there, and then we get thrown out going to second. So, at the start of the pitch, we're down 3 runs. We score a run, and we wind up with a double play. And it was just, kids trying to make plays and do things. And, you can't fault them for playing hard. Can't fault them for being aggressive. And, and then we put ourselves in a situation in the 7th to where we could, continue the inning. And, it just wasn't our luck on Friday night.
Yeah, to be clear, Abilene Wiley swept Monterey, but it was 6-4 and 10-7, so 2 competitive games.
Yeah, well, on Saturday we made the decision to go ahead and start Selena again after she had thrown the night before, and they just found gaps, and we kind of look up and we're down 4-0, and we're starting to circle the wagons and figure out what's the next step, and it's kind of, well, let's see how we respond. And Michaela Perez comes up and hits a leadoff home run, and everything just kind of got reinvigorated. And next thing you know, we into the first inning, we're up 5-4, and felt really good about where we were, and knew that we were getting closer to getting into the bullpen for them. And and so it was a good situation, I guess, to be in, and but it was back and forth, and their 4-hole hitter, we pitched around as much as we could. We didn't want to let her beat us, and so part of doing that, we wound up throwing to the 3-hole kid, and she had a pretty good series, and she runs into one, I don't know, 5th or 6th inning, and kind of put them back ahead. And we going into the bottom of the 7th, we're kind of going, okay, well, I guess, this spot in the order, and all of a sudden we get bases loaded, and I think we may have scratched a run at that point, close it to 10-7, and here we are with Michaela Perez at the plate, and she'd had 2 home runs that day already, and I mean, she ended the season hitting .490, and there's one name on the history books as far as average in the season ahead of her, and that's Lexus Lusk, and so but I'm proud of all of the kids and the way they competed, and the fact that they gave us a chance to be there and to learn. And
learn, because a lot of them are going to be back.
We do graduate too, Elena Wood and Gabby Hirosheta, but the rest of it is coming back, and they're already going back to work.
And we're closing up. We're coming up on the close here, but we'll say those teams got their pound of flesh here this year, but I was pretty good suspicion that Monterey is going to be back, taking pounds of flesh back, because he just mentioned all those girls are going to come back. That wraps us up in the Plainsman Fan Zone. That wraps us up for the LISD High School Fan Zone for this season, for this school year. We'll be back Wednesday night. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score.